Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com, back with a Pittsburgh Steelers preview and prediction for this Week 16 game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens. Ton riding on the line in this one. If Pittsburgh wins, they win the AFC North. They get their hats and t-shirts for the first time since 2020. If not, the division is wide open. Pittsburgh would still, I believe, control their own destiny, but obviously the road will get a lot more difficult. Let's talk about it. Before we start, if you guys could like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com, would really appreciate it. So again, set the stage, Pittsburgh 10-4, Baltimore 9-5, Steelers win. They clinch the AFC North and one of the top 4 seeds in the AFC. Kind of crazy, the North is the only division in the AFC that has not been clinched so far. The Chiefs have won the West, the Bills the East, and the Texans the South. And so that division lead all comes down to the AFC North. If Pittsburgh loses, I believe by strength of schedule or some other convoluted tiebreakers, Pittsburgh would still win the North if they won out and beat the Chiefs and the Bengals the next 2 games. Easier said than done, but that's just a preview of where things are at. So recapping this one kind of with a lens of the Week 11 game that Pittsburgh won 18-16, the Ravens offense, I have to imagine they're going to make a much more concerted effort to get Derrick Henry the football. How could you not, given the season that he's had? In that Week 11 game, Henry had only 13 carries, only had 6 yards for 13 yards after halftime, partly because the Ravens played from behind late, and partly because Pittsburgh did a great job controlling the clock and time of possession and line of scrimmage. But I just imagine the Ravens are not going to let Derrick Henry exit this game with 13 carries again. I don't want to get so hyper-focused on him, though. There is another running back to look at in Justice Hill, and he, of course, was a big player in the first matchup, in the sense of Peyton Wilson's interception on that long wheel route attempt to Hill was a turning point in the game. Now, Hill is a little comparable to Kenneth Gainwell of the Eagles last week. He's a pass down guy, space guy, juke you out of your shoes kind of a guy. And so I imagine the Ravens, seeing the difficulty Pittsburgh had defending Gainwell in the pass game in Sunday's game, that they're going to try to test that again and see, can these guys tackle better in space than they did last week. As of this recording, I'm recording this here on Thursday night, but we have the final injury report out. Deshaun Elliott doubtful to play. So again, big loss. You're talking run game, but being able to stack the box, tackler, your best tackler on the team. His presence will be certainly missed, and that's going to help really force Minkah Fitzpatrick to play down in the box. He played about, 25% or so of his snaps against the Eagles in the box, because Damontae Kazee, who started opposite Minkah, is going to be less of a box, strong safety type of a guy, and that opens up the pass game. So there's a domino effect, too, when you lose Elliott that Pittsburgh will have to overcome. Now, Pittsburgh, to their credit, has always had success against Lamar Jackson, granted in limited sample size. This will be Jackson's just 5th career start against Pittsburgh, first one at home in front of a crowd. Last one he had, I believe, came during the COVID year in 2020, so that's a pretty crazy just stat to note, considering how long Jackson has been in the league. So Pittsburgh has always rushed 5. They've always had a heavier blitz rate. It's rush to contain, making sure his legs don't take over. I thought in that first Week 11 game that Pittsburgh might change up their strategy a bit, try to stay one step ahead of Baltimore. They did not, but it was proven to be the correct strategy. Jackson did not have a great game overall, completed under half his passes, 1 touchdown, that interception on that great play by Peyton Wilson, and was sacked twice. Now, I do think in the run game, they're going to have to make some choices and allow his legs to be more of a factor than they usually prefer to be, given Henry's talent in the past when it was Gus Edwards, or even a talented but not Henry-like J.K. Dobbins. Pittsburgh would say, whatever happens with the running back, those guys can have a game, that's fine. We're not going to let Lamar run like crazy on us, and hopefully they do contain him, and they've always plastered well and had good rush lane integrity. That'll be important, but I think in the design running game, the zone read game, Jackson will have some more freedom. He had 4 carries, 46 yards in that first matchup. So receivers in this one have to check on Bateman. He's got an injury for Baltimore, but Zay Flowers still a guy, and of course those 2 tight ends. Mark Andrews has really heated up after a quiet start of the season, and Isaiah Likely. Pittsburgh will try to be a little multiple in their personnel. So maybe some 3 safety sets against 12 personnel is ideally what they do, kind of a big nickel, but without Elliott, unless they make an elevation, that'll be harder to do. So will Pittsburgh have enough answers against Baltimore with the injuries? Could be a challenge. Also injuries to Larry Ogunjobi. He's questionable, and cornerback Dante Jackson questionable with a back injury. Ravens defense a different unit compared to last time. In the first matchup, it was all about the Ravens struggling and underachieving defense. I said at the time they have talent, they're a good unit, and they've really played like that since. They've had some coaching changes and some shuffling around. Dean Pease is now coordinating or co-coordinating whatever system they have going on there. But including the Steelers game and the game since, Baltimore's only allowed 19.5 points per game. And so they've really been able to calm things down, not allow the big play. In the past game, they've had a little bit of personnel change. Trenton Simpson, the linebacker who was tasked to replace Patrick Queen, has really lost his role. They've used Malik Harrison instead. Will that change this week? We'll see. But there have been some personnel changes, some schematic and coaching changes, but I think they're just playing to their talent. I think it's honestly the biggest factor. They were always a talented defense. The run defense was and still is strong. The pass defense is finally catching up. So for Pittsburgh in this one, I do think running out of lighter personnel is still the way to go compared to heavier personnel. I'm not maybe as legalistic about this game as I was the Eagles game, where I was like, you can't do that at all and expect to have success. I think you can mix up personnel a little bit more in this one. But if you look at the charting from the Week 11 game, Pittsburgh far more successful in 11 personnel in terms of the run game. The average was 5 yards per carry, had a far better run success rate of about 2/3 of the time. Out of 12 and heavy personnel, they averaged about 3 yards per carry and a run success rate of about 38%. And so big stark contrast there. I know without George Pickens, I think what happened in the Eagles game, they just said, well, Pickens is out. We're not going to be in 11 as much because we don't have our best receiver in this one. Let's go old school. Let's play tight. Can't necessarily lean on that as a full-time approach. Again, I think you can run some more heavier personnel in this game without me getting so frustrated watching it, but obviously you just can't run, crack toss, which they ran 7 of the 12 rushing attempts by running backs in this game. I think split zone schemes, even some outside zone, had more success in that first matchup. And then pass game, it is obviously difficult to come up with great answers against Baltimore without George Pickens officially ruled out on Thursday by the Steelers. His third game he'll miss. But Arthur Smith will have to find a good plan overall. And obviously with the better run game and staying on schedule, it's going to just naturally help and open up the passing game. I think the Ravens do a good job taking away play action. The boot game was not successful in that first matchup. Pittsburgh's offense against the Ravens defense. Can you get the screen game going some more? I think that had some success against Baltimore. Najee Harris had a decent gain on a running back screen. I think that'll be some of the ways to manufacture some easier gains, some quick games, slow down that Ravens rush a little bit. Those are the strategies I would employ, but Arthur Smith is going to have to really bring a great game plan. Anytime you're playing without George Pickens, he's going to have to show that he can overcome that. And I think maybe the biggest thing I could fault Smith with this year, I don't think he's done a bad job across the whole season. I know some will disagree coming off what was a terrible game plan against the Eagles, but in some of those real adversity situations, he has not been able to come up with the answers, whether that was the short week in Cleveland where it's tough and you have a lot of things working against you, no question, but a bad game plan. The Eagles game, no Pickens, good defense on the road, tough situation, no question about that, but that's where coaching really makes their money, and so it's got to be a great game plan in this one. I think Pittsburgh has still continually shown better and stronger answers defensively, even in the Eagles game. I don't think the Eagles game for the Steelers defense, the game plan was bad. I think it was a pretty good game plan. Not going to be perfect, going to give stuff up. You're facing a good team at their place, but the game plan itself was not bad. The execution in many ways was poor. Offensively, it was poor execution, but also poor foundation, a poor game plan. So what can Smith find? Ravens run a fair amount of man coverage, especially on third down. Can you find some man beaters in those moments? That is where Wilson has the most success. And then, of course, some of these guys will have to make plays. I don't want to totally focus on coaching. I'll talk about the players themselves. Calvin Austin, he's stepping up. We'll have to do so some more, and hopefully some more Mike Williams in this game. But I recognize he's not the Mike Williams of old, and I'm only going to count on him so much. It's got to be the collective, not just one guy stepping up, tight ends getting involved, running game more successful, but there's got to be some chess match wrinkle where Smith can get a leg up. All right, so for my prediction in this one, I'm going the Steelers. I don't have a great reason why. Everything on paper says this is a Ravens win, even though both teams are on a short week. Pittsburgh has far more obstacles in this game. They're on the road. They just played a real physical ground into the literal ground a game against the Eagles, where defense is on the field for 77 official snaps. The Ravens are 2 weeks removed from a bye week. They got the rest starters against the Giants last week. They're a healthier team overall. There is every reason to pick Baltimore. I'm going Pittsburgh just because this is a team that when their back is against the wall, they seem to rise up and make the plays when no one expects them to. This time a year ago, they're 7-7. They're on their third starting quarterback. They lost 3 straight games in ugly fashion to the Colts and to the Patriots and the Cardinals, and they found a way to overcome. They won the final 3, and they made the playoffs, and they just seem to rise up in these moments. So, again, don't have a great reason for it other than Pittsburgh's track record. Winners 8 of the last 9, winning close games, making plays in the fourth quarter. Thankfully, TJ Watt looks like he's going to play in this one, so that's obviously critical. Will he be on a snap count? We'll have to see, but bottom line, for a score, Pittsburgh 20, Baltimore 17. Always close, but Pittsburgh almost always seems to win these close ones. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Drop your score prediction in the comments below, and then after this game, get ready for the quick turnaround to the Wednesday Christmas Day game, hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Should be a lot of fun, but obviously it's going to be a very hectic couple of days around the holidays. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.